Alright, so we've done a physical example now, acceleration of a vehicle. So now let's talk about a business example. So business application of the second derivative. I'm going to be working through example 2 from the textbook, and they call it acceleration of sales. So it says, for the first 15 months after the introduction of a new video game, the accumulated sales can be modeled by the curve capital S of t, so for sales, is 20 times e to the 0.4 t units sold. So this is measuring number of units sold, where t is the time in months, t is time in months since the game was introduced. So this is for the first 15 months. So we'll say domain is 0 to 15. The problem doesn't really say enough to say whether or not this should be included. I don't think it's going to be a big issue. And then it gives another function. It says after about 25 months we have a different curve, which is given by this function, e to the 17 minus 0.4 t. And this is after 25 months. So from 25 months to, and that, again, they don't specify. I can't imagine that it would be too long of a time frame. They don't specify when this model stops working. It could just be that this model, after too long after 25 months, maybe they're just not interested in the sales of this game anymore because that's, longer than 2 years. Maybe they have a new game that they're modeling the sales of or something like that. I don't think it's going to come into play that much. Okay, how fast are accumulated sales accelerating after 10 months? How fast are they accelerating after 30 months? What do these numbers mean? Okay, so we do have one question asking about 10 months, so that'll be this function, using this. You know what, let's number them, S1, S2. So we'll be using the first function. And then they say, how fast are they accelerating after 30 months? That'll be this function. So we're going to need, what are we going to need? If these functions, they model, they measure the number of units sold, they measure straight up sales, we want to know the acceleration of sales, we need to take a second derivative of each of these, because we want S1 second derivative at 10 and the second derivative of S2 at 25. Okay, so let's do S double prime at t first, or sorry, S prime. We need S prime first. First derivative first of the first function. So that's going to be, let's see, taking the derivative of this e to the t function, but it's got that 0.4 up there. But remember, all that happens is that drops down because of the chain rule. So first of all, the 20 stays there, and then we use the chain rule on e to the 0.4 t. Say derivative of the outer is just the function itself again, because it's an e function, so we would just say e to the 0.4 t. But derivative of the inner is going to be 0.4, so we multiply that 0.4 right there. Ugh. That's supposed to be 20 times 0.4, 20 times 0.4 times e to the 0.4 t. And that is actually, what is 20 times 0.4? That's going to be 8. So 8e to the 0.4 t. Alright, so this is the first derivative. This is the first derivative. Let me get rid of this. This is the first derivative, which is going to measure the speed of sales. We want the second derivative because they want acceleration of sales. So second derivative of the first function. So take the derivative of this. It's just going to drop another 0.4 up front. And what is 8 times 0.4? That's 3.2. And then there we go. There's the second derivative. So now let's say the second derivative of the first sales function at 10 is going to be 3.2 times e to the 0.4 times 10, which is going to be, what is that going to be? Where are we? Is that right? Yes. 175 units sold, not per month, but per month squared. Because remember, acceleration is measured in this case it's not a distance, it's number of items over time, time unit squared. In this case the time is in months. This means, what does this mean? What is, the question asks us to interpret this. The question asks us to interpret this. This means at this moment in time, the moment in time being 10 months, more, well, how many more? 175 more games will be sold each month when compared to the previous month. So this is the acceleration of sales. This is telling you how fast sales are accelerating. So this is good. This is a positive acceleration. That means sales are going up. Sales are going up. Okay. Let's find S double prime at 25 for the second function. So the second function was S of t was 100,000 minus 20 times e to the 17 minus 0.4t. Okay. First derivative of this second sales function, this 100,000 is a constant, so it goes away. We're going to have negative 20. Now, I need the chain rule for this, so I'm going to take the derivative of the outer function, which is the e to the t, with respect to the inner function, but that's just going to mean just copying it down, because that's how the e function works. And then times, which I'm going to put that extra factor right here, times the derivative of this inner function. But what's the derivative of 17 minus 0.4t? It's just going to be negative 0.4. There's that extra factor coming down here. The 17 is constant. Alright, cleaning that up a little bit, we're going to have positive, we're going to have positive 8 times e to the 17 minus 0.4t. Okay, so that's the speed of sales at time t for this span of time. Remember, this function is measuring the span of time from 25 months beyond. Now the second derivative, so we're going to take the derivative of this, same thing's going to happen. We're going to have that extra factor of negative 0.4 drop down, so it's going to be 8 times negative 0.4 e to the 17 minus 0.4t. That's going to be negative 3.2 times e 17 minus 0.4t. We want to know the acceleration of sales at the 30-month mark, right? Was it 30? No, 25. I have 25 written down, but I think the book said 30. Yeah, 30. So we're going to plug that in, and we get roughly negative, what do we get? 475 units sold per month squared. This means at this moment in time, I'll say at the 30-month mark, $475 less games will be sold each month than the previous months. So that's a bad acceleration, right? You've got a negative acceleration here. That means your speed of sales is slowing down. You might still be selling lots of games, but the acceleration is slowing down. So you need to be planning to have a new source of income way before this. Really, you should be planning for that. For the sales to start to deteriorate. We will actually talk about that after we get done with the next section, which is geometry. Once we talk about geometry, we'll be able to move on to talking about when is that moment in time when your sales peak, and then you start to have a drop-off in sales like this.